Hello and welcome to our next panel in the third day of Interleague. So we are going to be talking about the fan engagement. So here are our speakers: Christoph Gogela from 12th Man, brand ambassador and founder. Please. Jamie Skriebas, content creator of Liverpool FC Supporters Club in Malta. And Darren Young, the Fan Experience Company and director and UEFA mentor. It's yours, guys.
Okay. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for me to welcome you all here at this amazing venue of the convention center here in the Granda Luxury here in Belek, Turkey. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to all of you watching us live on YouTube or on TV. Harime efendiler ve beyefendiler, sizleri Belek, Türkiye'deki Granda Luxury Otel'inin kongre merkezini bir muhteşem mekanında ağırlamak benim için bir onurdur. Ayrıca bizi YouTube üzerinden canlı olarak izleyen herkese de sıcak bir hoş geldiniz demek istiyorum. Panelin İngilizce olarak gerçekleştirileceğini lütfen unutmayın. I hope I didn't butcher that up this much. The legendary Scottish footballer and Liverpool manager Bill Shankly once said, "At a football club, there's a holy trinity: the players, the manager, and the supporters." During his career, he transformed club football by emphasizing the importance of supporters, making them feel like a real part of the game. Needless to say that his legacy still lives on, and today, over 60 years later, clubs and football governing bodies are doing their utmost to push fan engagement to next levels. From the integration of AR and AI to in-stadium experiences, through avalanches of social media content all the way to blockchain and club tokens, it feels like this realm is endlessly filled with new opportunities of improving the fan experience. It glitters all bright, but is it all gold? Today we're going to find an answer to this and more questions with our panel of distinguished and reputable experts, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here, gentlemen. Let me maybe start with you, Darren, because we can all see you are the director of the Fan Experience Company, and I think we've all Googled that the Fan Experience Company does match assessments, but what does it really entail?
Yeah, thank you. We assess the matchday experience for clubs, leagues and federations at all levels of the game in men and women's football. For example, we assessed 10 games for FIFA at the Qatar World Cup, and last summer we were working in Norwegians women's football with crowds of less than 400 people. We've done this since 2006, and our biggest, longest-serving client is the EFL. So we assess every EFL club twice per season. So, and then after the assessment, we provide the club with a report that tells them what their matchday experience is like, and also how they can improve in future.
Amazing. Jamie, let me start by welcoming you here. It's a real pleasure to have you here because we feel like, fan engagement is a very important topic in football, but hardly ever do the fans really get their say. And so it's a real pleasure for us to also have you here and give you the space to talk. You are not an ordinary fan, you're a super fan. I think Jamie, in one season of Liverpool, he attends more games than some of us do in a lifetime. Jamie, what does your typical season actually look like?
My typical season would start basically going through the fixture list, seeing what games are going to come up. Normally I travel with my dad, so it's just quick, let's see what game we're going to go, and obviously the rest is history and content begins there. So that's basically what my content entitles to.
Amazing. Gentlemen, let's start with the actual panel questions. It is notable that fan engagement is becoming more important to clubs, the football associations, and other football stakeholders. Why do you think we keep talking about it, fan engagement, much more than years ago?
Well, if I can start, I don't think fan engagement is a new thing at all. Certainly, we've worked with the EFL, as I say, for nearly 20 years, improving the experience. But I think that whilst clubs have recognised fans in the past, I think there's now some changes that have happened that have made clubs realise that fans are much more important. So two that spring to mind. The pandemic, when stadiums were empty for 18 months, created lots of issues and made fans much more important to clubs when they came back. And also the proposals for the European Super League, I think that made clubs really realise how strongly fans felt and how important their views were.
Great. Darren, you just said that football fans have gotten more important. Jamie, is that really true? Do you think over the time your position is getting more important?
Nowadays, as it's happened, that the fan has become the most important person from the club, because without the fans, football is nothing. We learned that from the pandemic, that football without an atmosphere, you cannot have it, because the fan, after all, is everything for the club. So
football without fans is nothing. But having said that, how do you actually keep a fan engaged?
It's important to have a good communication with the fans, which at the moment the clubs want the fans to have their say in everything. So it's even having with the Super League, it ended up bringing the supporters board along, which the fans really feel important when they hear about the supporters board. So that's important for them.
Darren, you as a professional, do you agree with Jamie's point of view?
Yeah, I would say at this point it depends on the type of fan. Some fans don't want lots of engagement. They want to just do their thing, turn up, watch the game, swear at the referee, and then go home afterwards. Newer fans, younger fans, particularly families, want more engagement. Generally want more engagement. So that's where clubs have to look for ways to develop the whole experience beyond the 90 minutes. So that includes having things outside the stadium. It includes much more communication in the build-up to the game. It involves doing more inside the stadium that's not just the game itself. So things like activations, using the mascot and things like that to really improve the in-stadium experience. And apart from anything else, even if a club has nothing else to offer, its people can really make a difference. So having people around the stadium who are looking for ways to engage with fans, maybe giving high fives to children, for example, really changes the atmosphere. So every club can do something.
Talking about the whole experience and extending it beyond the borders of the stadium, what have you guys seen clubs been doing lately? Are there any innovations that really are being put into place?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's innovations as such. It's a slow evolution of gradually getting better and understanding what the fans need. Now, if you think of most fans, they are established. They've been to the ground several times, maybe several thousand times. They know what to do. So I think clubs are starting to understand that newer people, first-time fans, younger fans especially, haven't been before, and they need lots more help. So the things that clubs are sort of doing a lot more, producing guides, so a first-time fan guide to tell them everything they need to know. There are lots more fan zones all around stadiums that people can go before, maybe 2 hours before games. There is a lot more use of mascots. So utilising figures within the club, but to do more work to get people really, into the match day atmosphere. And one of the two final things, clubs are asking for feedback a lot more. So that's a really good thing. But more than anything, what you see at a lot of grounds in England especially is here to help teams. So groups of people who are there not for safety, but to make sure the fan has a great time. So they'll walk around, look for fans who may be lost, look for fans who maybe not know where they're going, and say, look, over there we have a zone or a shop or some food and drink. So really helping the fan to get the most of the experience.
Jamie, how is it for Liverpool Football Club? I mean, from all your travels, all your trips to Liverpool games, have you seen any innovation, any improvement in the fan experience yourself?
As Darren was mentioning, yes, the experience starts when the supporter arrives at the stadium. So when you see the stadium, you're seeing the guides, seeing the food and drink area, the merchandise. So it's important that these people are advised what's happening. Even nowadays with the team, you see the team bus going in, you have the stewards, they're all guiding the people so that everyone can see the players walking in. So it gives clients and all the people around a good experience. So I can agree completely with what Darren's saying.
For many of us, a matchday experience also goes hand in hand with a positive outcome of the game, the positive sporting outcome. But is it possible for a football fan to really enjoy themselves, even if their team loses miserably 6-0?
Well, from my background at the moment, going to loads of games.
It's no use asking Jamie, he supports Liverpool, they're top of the league. So
I would expect to win, but being a normal fan of any club, you all just want to enjoy the experience. Some people might not be lucky to go to games very often, so they want to enjoy it from beginning to end, so you never know what might happen.
Darren, you've been doing all those assessments. Are there actual proven cases where fans have been enjoying the experience even if their team lost?
I think it's impossible to separate the two. So I don't think you'll ever see a situation where a fan will say, we lost and we were terrible, but I had a great time, so everything's fine. But I think what clubs can do is control the controllables, so they can influence everything other than what happens on the pitch. So I think the best that the club can hope for is that the fan might say, that was terrible, but everything else was great. The team were rubbish, but everything else around it worked. And that's really good. But obviously you asked Jamie that question. My own team in the EFL, they had a 25% win rate in the last 6 years. So if you are relying on a team to be successful, to keep the fans happy, that's a really dangerous strategy, because very few teams win as much as Liverpool do, and you can't base everything on, well, as long as the team win, everything else is fine. So that's really important. And I think, again, going back to a previous comment about newer fans, families, younger fans don't care quite as much about how the result is. So they will be more forgiving if it's a bad performance, as long as they're having a good day out. So as that changes, I think we'll see more and more clubs able to create a great experience, even if they don't win. Just one example from the US, Orlando City, for 2 seasons, won, I think, 5 games at home in 2 years, and their attendance never fell. So it was the same all the way across the 2 years. So the experience was good, and they didn't lose any fans.
I think you've just touched our next topic, because when it comes to fan engagement, there's obviously a lot of challenges. Right now, at the moment, what do you feel like are biggest challenges clubs have to face?
For me, it's definitely the challenge of how to engage with the older children. So children from 11-year-old through to 17, 18. I think if you look at, certainly in England definitely, but probably across most clubs, they are very, very good at attracting and appealing to like a very younger demographic of maybe 6 to 10-year-olds. So give them a shirt, free tickets, get them to meet the mascot, takes penalties on the pitch, all things like that. Those kids love it. As soon as the kid gets to 11, then they're suddenly, whoa, that's not cool. And they want completely different things, maybe to do things on their phone, maybe to go on consoles. So the clubs have to think, how do we engage with that older age group? Because otherwise, they're just going to disappear and go and do something else.
Communication is obviously a very important part of fan engagement. Jamie, from your experiences, and let's really talk about the LFC. How do they talk to you as a Liverpool fan?
As a Liverpool fan, they normally issue surveys to the club. So regarding tickets, the food and drink area, merchandise, so any area, they will ask you to do a survey. The problem is, us as fans, we would not know once the survey has been submitted, what is the outcome. So that kind of feedback the fan would need to know, because if there are any changes, after all, the fan needs to know.
Okay. So what changes would you propose in the way LFC communicates with their fans, or any other club, for instance?
I would allow maybe the fans to get involved with the social media. So like, if a fan wants to be at an event and wants to get a moment and wants to upload it straight away, they have the right to do it, not with the problem with social media and TV rights, because if you upload a goal during a game, that gets taken down, unfortunately. So that's a kind of problem for a fan.
Amazing. Darren already touched this. We really cannot leave out the young generation. According to the report compiled by Diverse Media last year, 52% of members of Gen Z don't think watching live sports is important. Now, obviously, clubs and other football stakeholders across the world are battling with their inability to resonate within the younger audience. What strategies should the clubs implement to make sure that they will be able to attract the younger audience, and maybe even if there will still be any football fans in 20 years from now on?
Yeah. I mean, as I said, for the very young fans, it's probably not too much of a problem. It's quite an easy sell, and generally those fans will always come with a parent or a guardian, so they will already have quite a good system in place. I think for older children, it's difficult. I think as anyone who has teenagers as children will know, they're very difficult to tell what to do or get them to do what you want them to do. So they are a difficult group to engage with, but I think above all, they need a really compelling reason to come to a game and to attend in person and watch the game and stay interested. So the clubs have to be really conscious of making the whole experience about far more than just the game itself. So just to give an example, and the club have to sell this, by the way, they have to really sell the fact that it's more than a game. But if I give an example, some clubs that I work with, they have consoles where people can play FIFA and etc. and get involved in things before the game. And the very best clubs at this also recognise that one thing that really engages fans at a young age is players. So if they can get access to the players in any way, that will really, really make a big difference. So one great example is one of the clubs I work with. They have a squad of 25 players, and they will say, well, 18 will be changed and playing on a match day. The other 7 are employed by the club, and therefore they have a responsibility to do something on a match day, and they will go into the fan zones, talk to kids, talk to families, talk to fans, and play on the consoles. That creates such an amazing experience. The fans are going to think, wow, I want to come back again because that was so good.
We did touch on that and also add something from my point of view. I mean, nowadays, with the younger generation, I mean, the rise of short-form content on socials, I mean, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, the attention spans are, I mean, when you look at the research, are shrinking. I'm sure our psychological colleagues would be able to explain a bit more about that. But Jamie...
Well, just going to add there, very few young children that we see at games can actually watch a whole 90-minute game, at any age, really. So clubs have to think about this and not just expect them to sit there and get fed up, because that's the easiest way to turn them off turning up in future. So what the clubs need to do is think, can we put other things around the stadium so that if they get a little bit bored, they could maybe go and play table football or something else. I'd urge anyone who wants to learn how this works in practice to look at the Danish club, Brøndby, who do some amazing things inside and outside the stadium, so that there's thousands of children there, but they can either watch the game, or when they don't want to watch the game, there's hundreds more things for them to do, and that keeps their junior attendance incredibly high.
Jamie, you as a football fan, what should a club do to keep you engaged at all times? Not just at the stadium, but really 24/7 engagement kind of thing. What should they do?
Well, I think fan engagement on social media has become the most important thing within the sports industry. So if a fan wants to meet a player and they want to upload they're inspiring people to say, listen, this club is giving that chance to people to meet the players, or there's sharing of videos to say this stadium is unbelievable, so I need to go there, and it gives people the feeling that they want to go. So I think they should imply these kind of things.
Amazing. I hope the club people here are taking notes. According to the same report I cited in a couple of minutes earlier, Gen Z has also a player-centered approach. 49% of Gen Z apparently prefers to watch player highlights as opposed to highlights of whole clubs. Now, how can these clubs turn this around to make those young people follow the club instead of individual players?
Yeah, I mean, it is incredibly difficult. I mean, I think when I got into football as a youngster, it was very different to what it is now. There was nowhere near as much competition. I probably didn't know a lot of the players, so the club meant far more. So I think what has to happen in the future is clubs have to really sell themselves, have to really help fans understand the story of the club, the values, history, and really make themselves far more relevant and important to that younger audience. Because, and one of the ways they can do that, for example, is around real issues such as sustainability, such as homelessness, all these kind of issues. Young fans are really interested in these things, far more than probably I was at their age. And they will really connect with clubs who get involved in that sort of thing and have a real strong cause. So I think that it is possible, but it is really difficult. I think one of the easiest ways is to really get younger fans involved in the club in a much stronger way. So I'll give an example. A lot of clubs in the EFL in England do junior takeover days, and the idea is that lots of children just come into the club for the day and take on various roles. So somebody takes the role of the chairman, finance director, manager, so there's all. But it's very gimmicky. It's very aimed at small children who do it just for a bit of fun. but I wonder how many clubs could invite older children in and say to them, what do you really want from this club, and what do you really think, and how should the club be managed? And I can guarantee that the clubs would get a huge amount of value from that, because they do from the smaller ones, so they definitely will from the older ones.
It's definitely about resonating with the younger audience. In the beginning, I said I'm talking about Gen Z. Jamie, even though you are not maybe a textbook definition of Gen Z, I mean, you're still very young. For you, about content clubs produce and really what Darren just mentioned, what do you think? What would you like to see from them in this?
I'd like to see the fan and the club just getting along with these fan engagements, so the supporters can, especially the young ones nowadays with social media, need to get engaged with them. So I come from a different background because I come from my family, basically coming up from Liverpool fans. So I have the same reasoning as Darren had. So for nowadays, you need to, even as a supporter, maybe if you want to show stuff to other people, at least maybe get them involved in the club. So even becoming a fan for clubs like Liverpool and other big teams. So
you being a content creator as well, I mean, Jamie creates incredibly authentic content from his travels around Europe watching Liverpool. But have you faced also some struggles in that area?
Regarding that, sometimes you get people saying you're not a true fan or you're just doing it for famous things. I'm 100% a fan, obviously. Going to watch the team wherever they play. It can be even other countries that they're hard to get to. I find a way to try and go no matter what. So if that doesn't prove I'm 100% fan, I don't know what will.
Amazing. Now, if you look into the future, really, of fan engagement, Darren, I am going to start with you. What does the future look like?
I think if we look to the near future, in my experience, football moves fairly slowly. So I think there will be some innovation in the near future, but generally, I think there will be a progression of things that are already probably in place now. Definitely, fan zones is a real area that's moving very, very quickly in football's, for football's comparative slow speed. Before the pandemic, 10% of clubs had a fan zone. In England now, every club, or maybe 90% of clubs have some kind of fan zone. And if a club doesn't have a fan zone, the fans want to know why. So that's something that's we've seen a big change. The other thing that's perhaps made a real difference is the improvement in food and beverage at stadiums. So lots of clubs are really understanding that people care about food, they care about the quality, healthy options. So we're seeing lots of clubs improve, and I think that's going to continue. So lots of clubs will start to really bring out some very interesting menus, when in the past it was very boring, a burger, a pie, beer. I think we'll start to see that develop a lot. I think we'll probably see clubs begin to engage in more two-way dialogue, or I certainly hope we will. So that's something that clubs need to get much better at, but I think they understand. And finally, it's not too much at the moment, but I think there's lots of clubs starting to understand that they have to ask for the fans' opinion. So we're starting to see more surveys and more opinions sought from fans, where there's one great example where a club actually rings any new fan that comes to the club, rings them after the game and asks them how it was, which is, that's a really good thing to do.
Yeah, we can all agree that the future definitely looks bright. Jamie, looking into the future, what kind of future improvements you'd like to see?
As Darren was saying, the better communication between the club and the fan needs to be a lot better. So hopefully that will give a rise to a good response, and having the club, having that interaction with the fan, it means a lot, especially in the short term. Let's say by the end of the season, hopefully that would be a good improvement. So time will tell.
Hoping that for you that it's all going to work out in the end. A couple of months ago, the IMG has published a report about the 2024 digital trends in sports, and one of them was that generative AI and automatic content creation are going to be one of the things having the biggest impact in the industry in 2024. We decided to actually test out the powers of AI a little bit. We asked AI if AI could come up with a question for our honorable gentleman here. Let me just quickly cite what AI had to say. Greetings, Darren and Jamie. Considering the evolving landscapes of fan engagement, Darren, drawing from your expertise, how can sports organization leverage the passion and insights of dedicated fans like Jamie, who may not have a background in the football business?
Yeah, I think if you look at what a lot of clubs do, they will say, yes, we really engage with fans, we ask their opinion, we do this, we do that. They really just scratch the surface. Very few clubs are taking the knowledge and passion of fans like Jamie and really bringing that into the club and understanding that. They say they try to do that, but actually it's quite a high level. And what they really need to do, in my opinion, is to really go beyond that and get fans into the club and really ask them where the future of the club needs to go. Because at the end of the day, these fans are the people that will keep that club alive for the next 100 years. So they have to shape its future. And I think the more clubs understand that, the more they start to work with that and start to actually listen properly to what people say, then that hopefully that answers the question for the AI.
Surely hope so. Jamie, AI had a question for you as well. In the context of fan engagement, Jamie, do you see opportunities for fans to actively contribute to the decision-making processes of football clubs or leagues?
I don't see it as should be a problem. So nowadays we see how the fans are getting involved. So it's just having another person there that can give a good idea to the club. And after all ideas matter to the club. So let's hope that they will do that.
It's amazing to hear what a passionate football fan you are, and really trying to make a positive change in the football realm.
I think if I could add as well, I mean, I think technology is clearly going to play a huge part in the future of football. That's obvious. But I think, for example, as I was driving to the airport to come here, there was a report, and it says that in roughly 10 years, we're going to be watching matches in stadiums of holograms. So we could have Pele and Johan Cruyff on the field as a hologram. Now, I'm not sure I'd like that, but we'll wait and see. But I think there is going to be this huge leap for clubs to say, we need to use technology, we need to really understand how technology can help us. But as with the example I gave before, and it's actually Middlesbrough in the EFL, just picking up a telephone and saying to a new fan, you came to a game for the first time today, what was it like? Now, I know that using telephones to call people is really old-fashioned, and I'm sure you would never do that. But actually using basic technology to just really understand what fans really think is so much more engaging. And it says two things. It says, tell us what you think so we can use it to improve the club. But it also says to the fan, we really care about you, and we really care about your opinion. And I think before we get too hung up in 10 years' time and holograms and all this stuff in the future, let's just use what we've got to really get the basics right now, and I think that's really important.
Gentlemen, before we wrap up, I have one last question prepared for you, and it's a very short one. I'm not sure it's that easy to answer. What's the one thing you would like to see happen in the fan engagement by the end of this season? And let's count at end of the season after the Euros, after the big tournaments in summer.
Yeah. Shall I go first? I'm not saying this is something that has to happen in the next 6 months, but what I would love to see is every club appoint someone in a senior role whose responsibility is to look after fans, find new fans, and make sure that all the fans, those in the stadium and the ones that around the world that support the club, have the best possible experience when dealing with that club. Now, at the moment, most clubs have no one anywhere near that level of seniority. And I think if every club did that, we would have a much different view.
Jamie, same question to you.
More onto what Darren said. So I'd say fan representation, I would like that for a club to have it if it's possible. Because after all, the fan can say, listen, this is going wrong, it needs to improve. If it's a short-term improvement, it's going to matter for everything. So,
and he just wants Liverpool to win the Premier League. That's
of course. Gentlemen, amazing. That about marks the end to my questions, but I'd like to ask if we have some questions from the audience. Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can just maybe get the microphones over there.
yeah.
Or the mic guy is coming, I think, yeah.
Greetings all.
Hello.
That's Christoph's AI. Greetings to you. So one of the questions, and myself and my colleague here were just talking about this, so in Turkey, and it's come up in the previous panels leading up to this as well, around accessibility and diversity to the stadiums and the makeup of fans and how comfortable potentially women feel, potentially children feel coming into areas like stadia, which can be male-dominated, can be quite a daunting experience for certain people. But if we broaden that aspect of diversity, so in the UK we've seen the rise of sensory rooms, for example, to be able to cater for people that have, you know, diversity in neurodiversity sense rather than a physical diversity. How important do you think that is to the fan experience, and what innovations or what progressions do you think we're going to see in those spaces? And then as an add-on, what kind of advice would you give to countries like Turkey that potentially are struggling with the engagement with a more diverse fan base and their engagement on a match day rather than a digital sense?
Yeah, I mean, shall I go? I mean, that's a really, really fantastic question. If I speak from my experience in England with the EFL especially, clubs, as you say, have really understood that, and they've been working for several years now to make the whole experience a much more family-friendly one. So I think it doesn't happen overnight. It's quite a long process, but clubs have really started to understand that if they are going to attract younger fans, families, female fans to the stadium, it has to be a much nicer place to be. And so I think that's going to continue. I think that it really helps. You write about the sensory rooms. I mean, what clubs have really picked up on in England is that making it as accessible as possible for everyone actually increases the number of fans quite significantly. Because if you have a sensory room, for example, then a family might be able to come to a game who would never in the past have even entertained it because of it was just too noisy, too much going on. Suddenly, they have a place where they feel much safer and much more comfortable, and then the whole family can enjoy it. And the club, from a simple numbers point of view, can suddenly bring in 4 new people who previously felt it was out of reach. So to answer the first part of the question, I think there's, you know, they're they're all moves that really help in that direction, but we have to get better and better. And perhaps take out some of the antisocial elements, but not ruin the fact that it's a football game and we still want to swear at the referee as often as possible. So, but to answer the second part of the question, to help other countries, I mean, it's very easy for me to sit here now after nearly 20 years and say, try and make it a lot more family friendly and all that sort of stuff, because the EFL program, for example, has been a slow, long program that's taken season after season of improvement, of gradual improvement to get to where it is now. And obviously, I presume most leagues haven't got 18 years in which to do that. So I think to accelerate it, what really helps is just to say, if we think of our environment, the stadium, the club, and what it would be like for someone who is absolutely new to that club. Because in my experience, the fans who come every week and know everything they need to know, they'll just carry on as they are. But someone who's new to the club, there's all sorts of things that they need to be able to do that, to enjoy the day. So if the club focuses on that, and the league helps them to focus on that by creating maybe a program or some kind of standard that the clubs have to meet, then the clubs will start to think much more about a new fan. They'll do things that will help new fans, and the great thing is that helps every fan, because that means there's more information on the website, there's more signage around the stadium, and there's more things that every fan, and particularly people who are perhaps new to football, or are trying to get into the game, can really appreciate. And the fans who know it all, well, they'll just carry on as they were. Hope that answers it.
Okay. I might just add something to it, because, I mean, coming from my background, which is in social media, I feel like lots of clubs in Turkey, and not just in Turkey, I mean, it's in all areas of the world, but there's a big difference between being active on social media and between being engaging, really. So I think in order to really resonate in the audience, don't just be active, but also make it make sense and really research the trends and try to be more engaging. I think there was one more question somewhere in the audience. Yeah, if we can just get...
Hello, thank you for all of your presentations. It was so informative for me as an outsider of a fan engagement concept. I'm a sports scientist, by the way. I want to ask, there's no doubt that fan engagement is so important for the clubs, but I just wonder if clubs are aware of it. And I think there must be a team or a crew to just manage the fan engagement of the club, but at least just one person in charge of that. But I just wonder, in practice, do clubs have that kind of staff or members in the team, in the management? My second question is, which particular club or clubs comes to your mind when you think about values the fan engagement the most?
Do you want me to?
I think you can go for the first question.
I'll answer the second one first if I can. I mean, we do a program, for example, that measures the whole fan journey, and teams are rated, and they get scores, and league tables are created. As in football, at any level, people move up and down. The most consistent club in the last few years in the EFL in England that I'd definitely raise as a great example is Middlesbrough. They're a team in the northeast of England, not very fashionable, if that's the right word. They'll kill me for saying that. Not very fashionable, but they in 2008 didn't have any kind of matchday experience at all, and they didn't even get the EFL standard. And they just decided they would do everything possible to make that happen. And they went out, they painted the stadium, they made it much more attractive, they had cartoons on the toilet doors, they did all sorts of really innovative things, they created a whole family zone. They're the club that ring fans after the game to say, how was it? So the whole experience, right from the website, which is fantastic, right the way through to the end of the game and asking for your opinion, is just joined up, and it's fantastic. So that's the first question. To answer the second one, to answer the first one, probably most clubs haven't got that kind of resource. Liverpool have, and some of the Premier League clubs definitely will have, so that's fine. A lot of clubs at a smaller level usually have one person. Some people don't even have one person. They have someone who does the role, but also does ticketing and marketing and other things like that. So I think if you were going with the question where I think you were going, clubs really have to find more people to do the kind of tasks, because that says it's important, and it also says to the fans, you're important. And at the moment, I think if you just have one person who's trying to do 10 jobs, and that's just one of them, that's the signal that goes out, is fans aren't quite as important as they should be. So I think what you're seeing at the moment is lots of clubs are starting to recruit more people, and at a slightly higher level, and pay more money to them. So hopefully it's a trend that's going to just keep moving in that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe Jamie, would you also like to answer the second question? Is Liverpool one of the clubs that should be taken as the...
Liverpool should be taken, being a big club. So, and I mean it as a top club, even if it's Manchester City, Arsenal, they should all adopt it. So I think it's a big subject at the moment that needs to be worked on. But
amazing. I think that's about...
Christoph, sorry. We have a combined question here. Isasa.
Oh, yeah. Just go for it.
So we were talking about balancing the fan experience for your hardcore, traditional, historic experience versus your more diverse, younger, socially conscious, aware fans. Recently, we saw Arsenal reintroduce the No Room for Red campaign. So all white jersey, it's meant to be against knife crime and encouraging awareness around that, which is big in North London. In Turkey, we've also got the purple jersey that Samsunspor wear. But on the flip side, whilst we're engaging that type of crowd and the fans that want to use football in that positive way, are we diluting then the experience of those traditional fans? And that's like, we sit on two different spectrums of that here with Yahya Abi, and he's asking, when we do all of that fan engagement, do we start to dilute that experience for others?
Yeah, I'll definitely take that as the biggest fear when the EFL began to really look at the matchday experience was from the clubs who said, are the core fans really going to want this? Or they're going to say, oh, we're going to be doing too much for kids and too much for families and too much for women. They've done it. And I can honestly say, having gone to a lot of games, it doesn't really change the atmosphere. And if it does, is that really a bad thing? There's some things that, are probably unacceptable. The generation of fans, and I'll include myself in this generation, who want to just have a drink and swear, we're not going to be around forever. And that new generation, I don't think want that quite as much. So whilst I don't think we ever want to dilute it completely, because there still needs to be an atmosphere, and I think there still is. I've seen plenty of grounds where the atmosphere is great, but they've still got a nice family area where people are enjoying it, but in their own way, without perhaps some of the more antisocial sides. So I think the two can sit together side by side and coexist.
Would you like to add to that, maybe?
I was going to say, as Darren was saying.
I've said everything.
So great minds.
Amazing. Are there any more questions? Doesn't seem like it. Well, in that case, thank you, gentlemen, for taking your time, taking up with my invitation and speaking here. Thank you, all of you also, and
thank you.
Hope to see you next time.
Thank you. This one. Super. This one.
Thanks a lot to Christoph Gogara, Jimmy Skrebas, and Darren Young. So stay tuned with us for our next panel. We are going to be talking about prevention is the key to incredible performance and consistent results. Yeah. Our dearest fans, Nicola Innocenti and Marco Magistrelli, will be with us with İrem Ergeç.